edit it now. Need to get this. Let's see, yeah. Let's see. I did spell it wrong. Duh, you dumbass. Let's see. Wait. I remember what I have to do first. Okay. Alright. First I have to do this and then I can put it. Link it. I'll go over all the stuff here first. See, YouTube's being shitty as usual, not putting me out there. I have to end this. Let's see. That was hardcore media here, going over her face. Christ's sakes. Funny. Anyways, I want to go over a lot of this stuff. I don't know if I will that much, plus there are people that get in here, especially shitty YouTube. I don't expect much. So, might as well just go outside, probably look at UFOs, I don't know. Anyways, let's get to it. Thought it was hardcore media. If my legs were better, I'd be out. I wish I had a good camera too. My legs are better. Fuck, I have a shitty body. Let's move on.
Incinerated in his Tesla as a UFO whistleblower found dead. Tonight, the toll rising to 14. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace.
I remember Burkett, that Senator Congressman Burkett. He said there's a lot more than what people think. There is, especially if you look over decades of people that have ended up dead. God damn fucking nose always itches. Like, anyway.
This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
That's a great shout out.
A number of them have gone missing with the same circumstances, leaving Apple Watch and phone behind.
He's literally a walking hard drive of highly classified information. So the FBI is going to be very, very interested in determining what exactly has happened to him.
How can these not be connected? How does a young scientist, without telling family or friends, decide he's going on a trip, get into his Tesla without his wallet or iPhone, like so many of the other missing or dead scientists, leaving home on foot, leaving behind all ID, wallets, cell phones, tracking devices, any sort of identification that links them to the military or to their research, this young scientist, Joshua LeBlanc, leaves home and suddenly crashes into a guardrail, and both he and his vehicle are totally incinerated.
This is too much like the Manchurian Candidate, and like I said before, this reeks. I don't know. Some of this reeks of government mind control and CIA that's been doing it since the 50s. What's his name? Lee Harvey Oswald. As well, they did mind control programs on him and stuff like that. Flipping the switch and everything else. These people just leave their stuff behind. It's like the CIA or something flipped a switch in their head, they just left their stuff behind, and it just, disappeared. Some people like to see disclosure of that shit happen with JFK and all sorts of stuff. There were 3 shooters, Luna said, so these others, so it was just
joining us, an all-star panel. But first, straight out to Stephanie Harlow, co-host Crime Weekly, and you can find her at Stephanie Harlow. Stephanie, thank you for being with us tonight. What happened to Joshua LeBlanc? First of all, tell me about him. What was he studying? Let me guess, anti-gravity, jet propulsion, what?
The adult entertainment
industry. Yes, jet propulsion. He lived and worked in Huntsville, Alabama, which is kind of the epicenter of a lot of these missing people, including Dr. Ning Lee, who was missing for a while but ended up being killed, and also Amy Eskridge. So the University of Huntsville is very, very focused on NASA, jet propulsion, anti-gravity research. That's the epicenter of where all that stuff is happening. But he did work with some pretty high security clearance.
Very quickly, I want to go to John Nance, former supervisory special agent, FBI, assigned to D.C. and Miami. Got a question for you, John Nance. Explain the significance of anti-gravity research. As a layperson, the best way I can describe it is we obey the laws of gravity. We understand them. Anti-gravity.
Well, the thing is that I know different. I mean, our physical bodies do, but it isn't technology, it's magic. It's what we called it. There's a reason why I called it magic and not technology. Technology is the way that humans that don't have much up here can only understand it. We like to call it magic, or there's other words to use with that. The outer consciousness, the outer realms and stuff and everything. But the thing is that this stuff that we're doing is it breaks all physics and all laws with that. And these extraterrestrials, or NHI, which some is like, I've been telling people, these ETs and the craft and everything like that, they can do stuff that's extra dimensional, and some are from other worlds. Now there are entities out there that are just extra dimensional and stuff like that. Like I've seen angels, demons, stuff like that. I've seen other kinds of life out there that live among us, and only certain people. Some of it's been recorded, some hasn't. But this stuff defies all physics. And I think if stuff came out, we would learn that what we could do defies all physics, and pretty much these stupid flashbacks that we're in and everything is like we can leave our bodies. We have abilities to do that if you want to learn how to do it and everything. So there are ways of doing that, and using psychic abilities, telepathy across far reaches of space and universes and everything else.
Gravity research as it relates to aircraft of any type means that an aircraft could go up, down, to the side, tangential, any way it wished, and at speeds unlike anything we understand. So how valuable is it? Did I capsulize it correctly?
Well, when you're talking about anti-gravity or field propulsion systems, you're not really talking about pushing a craft through space. You're talking about actually moving space and time around a craft. So a bubble is created, and I don't know exactly how that, I'm sure there are other people that could address that in much more technical terms than I can, but essentially a space time bubble is created around the craft if such technology is actually available. And so you're actually moving, warping space.
I was always right. I said that. I knew this decades ago, and I was afraid to say it to people because the stupid people in the church, the stupid trash people, from the church, they would say, "Oh, this stuff doesn't exist," or, demons, these things are demons, or demons are in you. These pieces of shit people and everything. I always knew that there was, I've said it in other videos and everything, how these UFOs have a bubble around them, have a sphere, an atmosphere around them that, like a bubble that protects them, and they can move in and out of time, space, and physics and all this other stuff.
Space and time around the craft. That's why they appear to move in ways that are completely alien to our understanding of physics, or at least material science anyway. I think our physics can explain it, but our material science is in no way capable at this point of producing those that kind of performance. So I think generally speaking, yes, you're correct. But it's not
to these people, to these humans as well, that for me, this is UFO stuff is could be a common everyday thing, and how I've learned, physics and what these university professors are. And how stupid they are and thinking UFOs and stuff doesn't exist, and they do, is that it's like I've known, all along. It's like this is common knowledge, that these UFOs and ETs exist.
Not the normal way of thinking about, like a jet engine works by sucking in air, producing thrust, and blowing that out the back of an engine. That is not what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
anti-gravity craft, as I understand it, highly advanced aerospace vehicles designed, and they manipulate gravity fields for propulsion. The most cited example is the TR-38 Black Manta. It's rumored to be a triangular nuclear-powered spy plane using accelerated pressurized mercury, and it creates a plasma-based anti-gravity field around it, just as John Nance was describing. It's beyond what us regular old trial lawyers are used to discussing, but needless to say, back to Stephanie Harlow, co-host star of Crime Weekly, it's incredibly valuable, not just to our defense,
okay, so I was a little off.
Okay,
so I was a little off about, maybe them scientists missing for looking into the entertainment industry, okay? So I was wrong a little bit. I was a little off, okay? But anyways.
Financially, to our government, to whatever private entity or corporation ultimately develops it, and there's high interest in foreign entities regarding U.S. research in anti-gravity. Now, I've gone a little far afield, but that said, Stephanie Harlow, that is what Joshua LeBlanc was studying.
Yes, I mean, if you could learn how to manipulate gravity even in a small way, it would change the game completely for everything. It would change everything: architecture, travel, military weapons, obviously, and the privatized business fields like Tesla, SpaceX, Blue Origin. But Joshua LeBlanc was studying propulsion. They're always trying to study a different way of propulsion, because most of a jet or a plane or a rocket that goes into space is 85% fuel. So if you could figure out a way to reduce that fuel payload, then obviously you could go further, you could go faster. So they have a lot of people at NASA and the Jet Propulsion Lab and all over the military and government trying to figure out how to manipulate gravity and find a better way of propulsion.
That said, Stephanie Harlow.
There's this one dummy. There were some dummies actually that were talking on Twitter, and they were saying that NASA doesn't have files on UFOs. And I said, I was talking to my friend. He has his Twitter. He allows me to have stuff on there. And it's like we were saying, that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. They've been airbrushing and censoring pictures, photos of, stuff on Mars, the Moon, Jupiter, in outer space. They cut the cameras off from the International Space Station when UFOs appear. They staged part of, they made a stage to make scenes for the lunar landing, in case there are too many UFOs when they really went to the moon. They had those ready because the military, there's two NASAs. The one that deals with science and aeronautics, and space, and education. Then there's the other NASA, that's the classified part, that is under the military and CIA and everything. And They have all the proof. I just said that's complete bullshit. You guys don't know what you're talking about, and it's one thing I hate is idiots just putting out disinformation and everything about stuff they don't know what they're talking about. But anyways.
Well, we have a NASA nuclear engineer burned beyond recognition in his Tesla. What happened that morning?
So Joshua LeBlanc left his house pretty early, and like a lot of the other scientists on this list that we're talking about, he left his wallet behind, he left his phone behind, and then he drove his Tesla to the Huntsville airport, which was about 15 minutes away from his home. And that's where it sat for 4 hours before he started driving about another 2 hours, and then randomly, for no reason that we can figure out, crashed his Tesla directly into a guardrail. The car caught on flames, and by the time they got there, they said the car was incinerated and the body inside of it was unrecognizable. And Joshua LeBlanc's family, they want Tesla to give them video, because the Tesla has video, especially if there's a crash that deploys the airbags, where they will take short video, but they don't store them in the cloud. They're usually in the USB that's kept in the Tesla. If the car was burned beyond recognition, that's obviously destroyed, but Tesla would still have a way to retrieve that video. Joshua LeBlanc's family does not think that he did this on his own, and they suspect foul play, as do I.
NASA nuclear engineer Joshua LeBlanc, nearly 30, just 29, in the midst of highly sensitive research, burned beyond recognition in the wreckage.
I gotta say, Ross Coulthart, that investigates UFOs and stuff like that, he doesn't think all this is connected, and so that may be true, but a lot of it is. So I just wanted to put that out there because, it's his beliefs, and I have mine and stuff.
Of his Tesla Model 3 there near the Space Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Family report him missing 4:32 a.m. that day. It wasn't until 2:45 p.m.
Wow.
his car was found.
That's 10
I
hours.
find it very concerning. Let me understand this, Stephanie Harlow, that
Very
he
sus.
drove without his wallet or ID or driver's license or cell phone
Like I said,
to the airport and sat there
switch
for
flipped.
hours, or at least his
Yeah,
car
at
did.
least
Did he
at least his
meet
vehicle
anyone?
did.
Why did he just sit in a parking
Like I
lot
s-
for hours?
yeah, I know the CIA's been doing mind manipulation programs. Like I said, Lee Harvey Oswald was with the CIA and Army intelligence and everything. And like look at the Manchurian Candidate, how people could be changed and stuff like that, except for reality as well. Where they've had programs where it's like there's a switch that can go off, and I've seen some videos where some of the CIA stuff that we've done and how we manipulate. We can change a person's mind if there's a certain amount of people that's trying to change that person's mind psychically, and there are very crazy motherfuckers that try to manipulate people sometimes, and the programs that are run from the CIA and stuff like that, with these psychic programs and mind manipulation programs. This guy seems like a switch flipped in his mind, from on to off, and from like it was off and then something was turned on, and this is just too much the same as it was with the general that just vanished, leaving behind the phone and watching all sort of stuff.
I'm not sure. I think that's what his family wants to know as well, because Joshua didn't show up for work that morning, and that was very unlike him. He was good at his job. He was having a very advanced career, especially for his age. He was brilliant. He talked to his family and friends every single night online. They gamed together. They talked together. This was not a person who any of what he did that day made sense. And I think that it's important to understand that there have been and there are verifiable CIA document leaks called Vault 7 that WikiLeaks published years ago. And in those document leaks, it shows that the CIA is exploring how to remotely hijack vehicles to undertake what they have said, in their words, not mine, nearly undetectable assassinations. So when you see something like this, what happened to Joshua LeBlanc, I think your brain goes there. I know mine did immediately.
Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Is it true?
This is a crazy thing how people that are not in the know, how they say how evil the Russian government is or Chinese government is, and the stuff that we do is just as evil, sometimes even more so, because the U.S. government pretends to be something that's not all the time. Democracy and the stuff of angels, that we're stuff of angels. We're the angels and we're the best on the planet. And if people found out the truth, they would want so much of the government destroyed and everything.
True that it took 3 days to identify his body?
It did, Nancy. His body was brought to the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences, but even with everything at their disposal, it took 3 full days to positively identify LeBlanc.
Okay, straight out to Dr. Kendall Crowns joining us. Dr. Crowns is the chief medical examiner, not a medical examiner, the chief medical examiner at Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth, Texas. He is a star of a hit podcast, Mayhem in the Morgue. And more importantly, he is an esteemed lecturer at the Burnett School of Medicine at TCU and has performed literally over 10,000 medical autopsies. Dr. Kendall Crowns, thank you for being with us tonight. Dr. Crowns, why 3 days to identify his body? I mean, they knew it was his Tesla, number one. The family reported him missing. Why did it take 3 days to figure out it's him?
Well, actually, 3 days is a little surprising to me because I would think it would take even longer. If a body's burned beyond recognition, meaning that the facial skin has been burned away all the way to the bone, you have to do techniques to figure out who they are. And one of them is dental records. So they have a presumptive ID. They kind of know who he is. They get his dental records and do a comparison. 3 days is, to me, an actually quick turnaround time. So I'm not surprised it took that long, but they are going to have to do techniques that are going to take a little longer because he's burned beyond recognition.
Okay, Dr. Kendall Crowns, I know I'm wading into dangerous territory here, arguing with the chief medical examiner in a metropolitan area, but how hard is it to get dental records? The family says that's his car. He's missing dental records. That should take a couple of hours.
Well, it isn't a couple hours. You have to call the dentist. They have to get the records. They have to bring them to the medical examiner's office. So you're looking at least a day or two.
Whoa. You do know about email, right? You don't have to get in on your horse and buggy and go over to the medical examiners. You hit one button and send it. Okay, so that takes 5 minutes. The family says that's his vehicle. He's missing. Here's his dentist. I still don't get what you're saying. Are you saying the teeth were incinerated too?
Well, they have to find out
the teeth can be incinerated in cases to the point that they'll crush when you move the body. But let's say you get the email in a day, and then you have to have a dental professional review the case. It isn't something where the medical examiner can pull up the dental x-rays and make the comparison. You have to get a dental professional, a forensic dentist, to then make the comparison, and they may not be available that day. It might take them a little while to come in. So again, 3 days, that's pretty impressive for someone that's been burned beyond recognition.
Well,
just because it's his car, you don't know if it's him driving it. You have to make sure and do your due diligence to make sure you got the right body and to make the decision and to make the identification.
I have to actually come to his defense, which usually I win on some stuff like this, but the thing is, you have gang members that have shot and killed people. There are people on the streets that get shot and killed. Robberies, people that have been shot and killed. There are people died on the streets in these places with Dallas, Fort Worth or whatever. But anyways, I know in LA County, it can take up to 12 to 24 hours for a coroner just to pick up a body, depending. If it's a slow, if they're like a slow night, slow day, or whatever, how many bodies there are in the county, and there's not a lot of coroners, medical examiners to pick up these bodies. It's not like this is a job that everybody wants to get in, picking up dead corpses, so this is going to take a while, I
am not suggesting that anyone cut corners in the ID of a dead body at all. I'm saying that with the family saying he's missing, that's his car, there's a dead body in there, they can't get his dental records like that, instant email or even text. But what you're saying regarding bringing in a forensic dental specialist, that suddenly makes sense to me. Another issue out to special guest joining us, Frank Milburn, former British intelligence officer who knew another dead scientist very well, Amy Eskridge. I find this also incredibly interesting. A Tesla, as you know, very rarely bursts into flames.
The thing with her is that she said, I would never kill myself. And if something happens to me, then it wasn't because I committed suicide. She said that, it's on video and everything. And so, there's a lot of these scientists that worked on anti-gravity research. And I think it's because the military wants control of it. They don't want the people to have this magic. In human terms, technology. It's not even technology, it's magic type stuff. Because you have to use psychic, you have to have like psychic, abilities just to fly these craft. and everything. You can't, use a joystick and stuff like that. Not joystick, but you know what I mean. Yoke and stuff like that, and go up, down, right, left, and everything. A lot of it's psychically controlled and everything. And the military defense contractors do not want us average Jays and Joes to have this stuff. It is a threat to them, and they want to have all that control.
Vehicle less likely to burst into flames compared to gas vehicles, which burst into flames 60 times more than electrics. And I also find it interesting that when Joshua LeBlanc's parents were told about this, at first they thought he had been abducted. When he went missing, he was so reliable and so regular. You know those people that never miss work, ever? They're there when you get there, making the coffee. That's Joshua LeBlanc. When they found out that he did not report to work, they could not hear from him, they reported him missing at 4:30 in the morning. I find that very, very probative. That would be like the camera coming to me and I'm not here. That never happens. That has never happened. See where I'm going with this, Frank?
I do.
Yes, when you have something that runs contrary to a subject, an individual's sort of established patterns of life, something that really stands out that is contrary to what they normally do, the way that they normally behave, the way they normally live, the places that they normally go to. Yes, that would be deeply suspicious. But the issue of the vehicle, I can't speculate as to the cause of it. What I can say is that vehicular tampering, sabotage, is something that Amy Eskridge experienced many times. And after she died, other scientists came forward to me anonymously saying that their vehicles had been tampered with as well, as in brakes, to make the vehicle effectively dangerous for them to drive.
Let me see Frank Milburn, please. Former British intelligence officer who knew scientist Amy Eskridge very well, who said point blank, "If I am found dead, I did not and would never commit suicide."
Right.
So, Frank, I've had those words from murder victims before, typically in domestic homicide cases, where they would tell their friends, "Hey, if I'm ever found dead, he did it." I just know that. So I find it very disturbing that she said that repeatedly. And tonight we're playing some of her recordings, yet seemingly no one is taking her self-inflicted gunshot wound seriously. But back to Joshua LeBlanc. I'm going to circle back, Frank, with you and those recordings. Dr. Kendall Crown, so assuming that the comparison was made and the body ID'd through dental records, how does that happen? And do you lose all of your DNA in an incineration of that sort?
So let's start with how the DNA or the dental records are compared. We will take the body at the time of autopsy and do a full dental x-ray. We usually have the equipment to do that. And then those are given to the dentist to make a comparison. They usually look at fillings. If there's no fillings, they'll look at root structures of the teeth and pulp cavities to make that identification. And then can a person's be incinerated to the point that there's no DNA? Yes, if you get the temperature high enough for a long period of time, over 1,000 degrees, you basically will cremate the body and destroy all the DNA. And these Tesla fires, the problem is they're hard to put out because those lithium batteries keep burning and the firefighters need to use special techniques to put them out. So they're a very long period of time that they're burning. So it's potential he could have been burned to the point that there's no DNA, but he has to have been turned to ash at that point. So if there's still parts of the body left, usually the bone marrow is still intact because it's pretty insulated by the fat and muscle and all that, so you could still get DNA from them. If there's a tooth still left, you can still get DNA. But if they get burned completely to ash, of course, there's no DNA left.
Take a look at him with the vehicle. That's the Tesla getting charged. So discussing the lithium batteries, that's a double-edged sword right there. Because, yes, Dr. Kendall Crowns, you're right about the immediate fire when the lithium batteries blow. But then there's also the statistic that hardly ever happens with a Tesla. It doesn't just burst into flames as opposed to gas-powered vehicles. What do you make of that, Dr. Crowns?
Well, that's correct, but I believe he hit something with his car, and that could put the lithium battery in peril for bursting into flames. So, again, you'd have to look into exactly what happened with the accident to figure out why his car caught on fire. But the problem, once the car catches on fire, the majority of them are made of plastic components and cloth, and they burn quite rapidly and quite quickly and very hot.
Summertime expenses stacking up fast. For many, the only option is swiping that credit card, leaving you trapped in a cycle of high interest debt. But go to American Finances, talk to them. They look at your current debt, you their services on average. He did have a gun with him. Interesting. Why did he think you needed to take a gun? Would track them, no identification linking them to the military scientists. I've got, AmericanFinancing.net/Nancy, and good luck. Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Isn't it true? Here he is, like so many other of these scientists. I've got copious notes taken on every detail of their disappearances and deaths. Many of them just walk out the door without their wallet, their driver's license, their cell phone, their smartwatch that would track them, no identification linking them to the military. In fact, as I recall, McCaslin left with no ID, no watch, no anything. He did have a gun with him. Interesting. Why did he think you needed to take a gun? But after his death, even his Air Force sweatshirt was found about 2 miles away on the side of the road. Anything that would have connected him to the military, gone. Same thing with LeBlanc. No ID, no.
We do have a way to take and hijack somebody's mind. We do have that ability.
Nothing. No one would have known who he was if he had not been in that Tesla and his family had not reported him missing. It's my understanding that out of the blue, no suicidal ideation, no depression, no anything, was kind of excited about his research and his work. Dave Mack, what happened in the crash? I understand that
people that are suicidal, and I've been there myself, I've tried suicide myself and everything, and if you are suicidal, you're going to know that that person is. You're going to see that in them, usually 98% of the time. You're going to know that they have those thoughts. You know by the way they talk and everything else. And it's like, usually people leave a note before they try to do it. So that's, at least they leave a note or something, right?
Crashed through a guardrail and plowed into several trees.
That's exactly what happened. The initial impact in the Tesla was into the guardrail on the side of the road, but he went through the guardrail, over the dirt, and slammed directly into a couple of trees, Nancy, and that's where the inferno began, was right there in the tree line.
Now, we've learned from his LinkedIn page, he started working as an aerospace technologies electrical engineer at NASA, 2019. What they do, they design, develop, and test hardware and software used in spacecraft, used in satellites, and ground support systems. He also plays a role in the agency's Moon to Mars initiatives. Ooh. I find it very interesting, Dave Mack. His family first believed he had been kidnapped when they reported him missing at 4:23 in the morning. It was so unlike him.
It's shocking to me that at 4:32 in the morning, his family is calling to report him missing. Look, I get it. Some people don't show up for work, but 4:30 in the morning is a very early and very specific time. And as you mentioned, his family thought abduction. So something else was going on that we haven't been told yet. But I mean, really, Nancy, I get going to work early, but being reported missing at 4:32 in the morning, that is a shocking revelation in this story to me, because something else was happening that we have not been told, or they wouldn't have done it.
Back to Dr. Kendall Crowns, you were discussing lithium batteries. They burn at 500 degrees Celsius, 1,000 degrees, between 500 and 1,000 degrees. Is that enough to totally incinerate the body beyond recognition?
Yes, it can be. I mean, if you sustain that 1,000 degrees for a long period of time, it will completely burn away the skin. It will cause what we say is it makes the skin kind of black and crisp like charcoal, and then it burns away to the bone. Then the bones, as they're being burned at this sustained heat, will become brittle and break. And again, at 1,000 degrees and higher, you're basically cremating him, and he's sitting in a metal box, which is going to keep that heat in and keep it going and circulating. And then, so it's an environment that could easily burn him beyond recognition quite quickly.
The part that's very unusual, well, it's all unusual, is what Stephanie Harlow told us, the Star of Crime Weekly, that he first went to the airport there in Huntsville and sat there for hours. Why? Doing what?
Yeah.
Did he meet someone? How? Well, why was he driving around with no cell phone, no ID, no wallet, no anything?
Smart.
What happened in those hours?
I mean,
was anyone with him? Did anyone get into that car? Did he have a burner phone?
I'll tell you right now, I think everybody else would agree. If he was suicidal, if he had any depression in him, people would know that. Around him would know that. His family would know that. Friends would know that. He'd talk to somebody. So this makes no sense. He's just sitting there. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Is any of that caught on video? Airports are like Vegas casinos. They are covered with video cams. Where's the camera? Where's the video? As of yet, it has not emerged. Does it still exist? Which leads me to Frank Milburn, former British intelligence officer who knew another dead scientist, Amy Eskridge, very well. Frank, I'd like you to listen to her voice, to her tapes that you have provided to us. Listen.
We discovered what was up when we got back, and the car battery was drained, the pepper spray was emptied, right? They just had a colonel walk out of the airport behind me. He didn't have any luggage. I don't think he even flew that day, right? My car failed to start, and then he offered to jump it for me. Right? So the colonel jumped in my car, and then I went along my merry way. Totally traumatized, but also totally okay, right? I have not traveled by air, and I also have not left the city by car either ever since then.
From our friends at Daily Mail to Frank Milburn, what is she talking about?
Yeah, she's talking about an incident that happened when she came back from out of town, when she came back to her airport near Huntsville. And this is something that was recurring for her. She would go out of town, fly out, she'd come back. Her vehicle had been tampered with. Even when she didn't fly, her vehicle would be tampered with. So her vehicle would be in an airport car parking lot, where presumably there's cameras and there's surveillance people moving in and out. So presumably you'd have some record of it. But her car was being tampered with. Whether it was products inside the car, items inside the car, or sometimes the door would just be left open, ajar, so that the battery.
Her father, I believe, I think he was at NASA too. He was connected with the UFO research, I believe, as well. And so she's like second generation.
Would run down, so that when she came back, she had a problem. But this was recurring, and it happened not only to her at airports, but also at other locations, and also including at home. And there's a video where she's very worried. She found footsteps outside her house. Yeah, there's not one where she's talking about her car being her mother's car being battery drained.
Also, allegations.
Yeah, people should look her up on Twitter X. I looked over some of those videos where she said, I would never commit suicide, I don't like that. And she was very scared because people, were tapping her stuff, going through her stuff, and following her and everything else. And she had committed suicide.
That her home computer had been hacked. Listen.
Yeah.
So I maybe just sent a message to Tim on LinkedIn and informed him that if I see one more illegally leaked document of photos that were taken from my laptop bag from my home by your business partner, I'm going to call the FBI. You've been informed that your partner has committed interstate felonies because he took pictures in Alabama, he transported them across state lines to New Jersey, and he posted them online from New Jersey. That's an interstate felony, considering the NDA. It's an act of corporate espionage because he founded a competing company right after that. It's an act of international espionage because he has a dual citizenship status.
This is the thing. Like I said, these defense contractors, they're like cartels where they've actually killed people from one other side to gain the upper hand on UFO, extraterrestrial, NHI, tech, magic type of stuff. And others have talked about, videos I've talked about, how they're willing to kill people to get access to get that from the other defense contractor, etc., to steal it, and they are willing to kill people. It doesn't matter if they're Americans or not. This is our government where this is happening. There's a lot of stuff that, this is another reason why they don't want UFOs and all stuff to be disclosed, because we make the Mexico cartels not look so bad when we have cartels in our own country and everything. But that's defense contractors for this magic.
It's an act of breach of executive presidential privilege because the document is, addressed to Trump on the very first page. And are you aware that your business partner left a very messy trail of evidence about these multiple felonies that's extremely, extremely easy to prove in court?
Frank, what is she talking about? Do you believe her computer had been hacked?
That happened to her a lot. And she was regularly, for example, when she was attacked with directed energy weapons, which has been well documented, she was working on an air-gapped computer, precisely because she didn't want to be connected to the internet. Her team and her were constantly having to clean, reinstall their phones, their computers, precisely because of this hacking. But in that particular case, here, the person that she names in the clip that you played previously, he's been gaslighting me and her since before she died.
This is the thing, with stuff that I've had access to that I've been classified before, whatever, I would not want to be around big windows like that. I would want to be around where there's, solid structure around me, because you would know that someone could do something. That's just me. It pays good to be paranoid sometimes as well, because it's not exactly paranoia, it's just fact. They have to worry about being killed with the stuff that you have. So
he knew. I've got emails going back I've got documents going back to 2021 saying that
stuff is bad.
She was being a target of industrial espionage by him and his partner. These people have been trying to gaslight her before and after her death and trying to portray her as crazy, as not competent. But this should be thoroughly investigated by the FBI. I know these people, they're trying to gaslight me too. So, this is actually disgusting behavior, talking very, very badly about a deceased dead lady who can't defend herself. But that's why I'm here to defend her.
Well, you mentioned something very important to me, Frank, and that was that she was hired and cleared by the government and was actually working along with Homeland Security. I want to and bottom line is, You have to go through so much. Isn't that true, John Nance? For her to get that type of clearance and to be working with Homeland Security and with the government on anti-gravity and jet propulsion research, she would have to be cleared out the yin-yang.
Yeah.
I would think that she would at least have a TS SCI clearance and probably access to maybe a SAP, like these very, very secure compartmentalized programs. Those clearances aren't just doled out, and the people that have those types of clearances are regularly assessed, as to their mental competence, financial stability, all that kind of stuff. So if she was working on those programs, then I can't imagine that she wouldn't have some of the most stringent security clearances.
This is also something that I do know. My dad, he worked on special access programs, and other people that I know of, is that the FBI are constantly monitoring who you talk to, who your associates are, who your family is, and they're always following you. They're always tracking you. This goes back, my father and others back to the 80s, and before then, the FBI asks, can ask your family questions, they can ask your friends questions about you. They develop a psychological profile of you. With Bob Lazar, it seemed like they were dicking him around a bit, or they were testing his mentality, his mental affinity, by what he could tolerate, because they were calling him at different times of the day or night, etc. He was like a different case compared to others, but anyways.
That the American government has. So all of this is incredibly disturbing, and I would think that this would be of great interest to the FBI, especially from a counterintelligence espionage perspective.
They're part of covering it up.
The reality, John Nance, when I'm looking at Amy Eskridge and Joshua LeBlanc, for instance, two of them, with the highest possible security clearance. They're working on government, actually secret government research, beyond anything that trial lawyers like myself have ever encountered. The government is not going to entrust people that are suicidal, have addiction problems. Nothing like that.
You're monitored.
Depending on the level of clearance, and like I said, these SAP programs
that I do know of is that the FBI and them monitor your phone calls. They know who you're talking to. They're watching you 24/7 and stuff like that. I remember my dad saying, if anyone asks you who I work for, what I'm working on, tell me. I'll report to the FBI. The FBI will take care of them. You won't see them ever again. They'll be gone. I remember that's one of the reasons why, me and Phil were, told not to use our real names and stuff like that, during a while and stuff like that, because, whether it's the Russians, the big Red Scare, might want to know what my father was doing, or, these other people. You're watched all the time.
It's not technically a higher level than top secret. It's an access control mechanism, and depending on what type of SAP program someone has access to, the government will even monitor the type of medications that you're on. I mean, that's how sensitive we're talking about this stuff. There are also USAPs, which are unacknowledged special access programs. Where a lot of this anti-grav technology is typically housed. So people that have access to this type of stuff, that are working on this stuff, are closely monitored. So you're absolutely correct. Her mental state would not be in question if she had those kinds of accesses.
And I'd like to point out, she is chalked off as a suicide, even though she swore before her death she would not commit suicide. Now you've got Joshua LeBlanc no suicidal ideation, no depression, nothing. Crashes his Tesla into a guardrail and dies again without any identification. Then Air Force Intelligence Officer Matthew James Sullivan died at home, Falls Church, Virginia, just months before he was to testify before Congress about secret government research programs. He died of an alleged accidental drug overdose. It was a deadly mix of prescription muscle relaxant, anti-anxiety, and even child anxiety drugs, a deadly cocktail. It was determined by Representative Eric Burleson in a letter to the FBI. The manner and circumstances of Sullivan's death raised substantial questions as he was preparing to provide testimony to Congress. And I'm quoting what Burleson said. But I want to circle back. That's 3 scientists approved by the government that die of suicide under very bizarre circumstances, had never been suicidal or even depressed, don't even miss work, ever. So back to...
This is the thing, in the old days before the internet, people wouldn't hear anything about this stuff that happened unless you watched Unsolved Mysteries. I've read Unsolved Mysteries. I heard of other cases where people were, they had no classified stuff, or they were around classified special access programs, and they ended up in a car accident, and they were killed, but they weren't car accidents, they were killed. So
Amy Eskridge, she began to notice odd details that were happening around her.
So whoever did that thought I was going to be landing alone, because I bought my ticket separately, right? But then he decided to go with me at the last minute because he didn't feel comfortable with me flying alone, right? So he actually bought his ticket at the counter when we got there. So whoever did that thought I was flying in alone.
Right.
But my side obviously noticed immediately, because when we got to the airport in Virginia to fly home, like, they just waved me through security, didn't check my ID, didn't check my ticket. They were like, leave your shoes on, don't take your bag off, just walk through the scanner, right? Like, they just wanted me to get behind the security barrier as quickly as humanly possible, right?
So, I don't believe I have, since September 11, one time, Frank Milburn, not had to empty everything, take off every piece of metal, my running watch, you name it. I stripped down my children, everything, let them go through the metal detector. She noticed just before her death that she was waved through, and they said, don't take off your shoes, you don't have to empty anything, just go. She started noticing odd details, odd things happening. She became concerned and afraid and stated point blank, if I die, I did not commit suicide.
Yes, that's correct. But I mean, also as far back as November 2021, because I've been going through all my old signal files with her, and I provided these to you. In November 2021, she's saying, look, I've had a really hard life, and there are a lot of bad things have happened to me. I'm in an incredible amount of pain from injuries that I've received. But I have every desire to go on living, because I've got a mission to accomplish in life. Yes, and for her, that was everything: her work, her family, and the fact that she had this kind of like this inner drive, and she wanted to bring her work effectively into the public sphere and out of the classified sphere, to benefit all of us, all of mankind, basically. So she had this mission. She felt this kind of sense of destiny, and that was 7 months before she died. Before she started sending out these desperate messages, to all her friends, to me, and to others, and to co-workers, to everybody who knew what was going on around her. A month before she died, saying, again, I won't commit suicide. I'm not going to overdose. I'm not going to take pills. I'm not going to shoot myself. I'm not going to kill anybody else. So, 7 months before she dies, she's saying, I have every reason to live. And then a month before she dies, she's saying, I'm not going to kill myself.
Right. That says everything.
Hi guys, American homeowners. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft, and your equity is the target.
We
With just a forged signature, your ownership to you, Dave Mack, joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter. I want to circle back to the fact that Sullivan, who we were describing earlier, was a whistleblower.
You can afford an
What
apartment.
can you tell me? And just before he could testify, he ends up dead. No suicidal ideation, no depression, nothing, with top clearance. He also dies in his home, accidental drug overdose. What is he doing with all those anti-anxiety meds?
Yeah,
they wouldn't have him
that's
on
very
board
sus.
if he was taking all of that medicine. It wouldn't happen. He would not maintain that clearance.
No,
what
wouldn't.
happened, Dave Mack?
Well, Matthew Sullivan was scheduled to testify before Congress about, and I'm using the actual wording here, secret government UFO programs. This was a real hearing scheduled for Matthew Sullivan to talk about what he knew, firsthand experience. Now, this was a big deal. There was a lot going on with the concern about his death. Representative Eric Burleson, Nancy, labeled the mysterious death of Sullivan as a grave concern, implications of national security. So a lot more than meets the eye. It's not just him going in to talk about flying saucers in air quotes, but look at what he overdosed on, Nancy. Xanax, cyclobenzaprine, which is Flexeril, muscle relaxer, and a drug to treat children for bedwetting. That's what they say he overdosed on. I looked up the numbers, the amount that would have to be taken of those medications to overdose, and the numbers are astronomical. And as you mentioned, you don't get this kind of clearance in the military if you have...
Listen, I know drug abusers. I know some personally. And former drug users, they're not going to use stuff for bedwetting and stuff like that, especially children's stuff. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? It's like Xanax. Yeah, druggies use Xanax. I know that because they told me this stuff. That's the favorite thing they told me when I was in jail. They said, oh, I got this Xanax, I got this, I got that, and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what they use and stuff and everything, but I think they did that just to spite him. That's what I think.
Suicidal ideation or an addiction to any of these types of situations. So Matthew Sullivan was planning on opening the door on some very classified and very secret UFO material that was important to the government of the United States of America, for the people to know anyway. And before that could happen, he died.
I only wonder if it had anything to do with anti-gravity jet propulsion.
Yeah, it all goes
said,
together.
I would be remiss if I did not mention brilliant physicist, Dr. Ning Lee. She had been awarded $450,000 from the DOD, and she disappeared briefly. Then she was mowed down in a crosswalk. Nobody else went out in the crosswalk, but she was suddenly thrust into the crosswalk. She got mowed down. Her husband immediately had a heart attack and later died.
What the fuck?
She was brain dead and then later died. To Stephanie Hurlow joining us.
So that means he could not have defended her honor if they said, he couldn't have defended her, therefore that he knows something. So, very convenient, he just died. That he died also.
Co-host Crime Weekly podcast. What can you tell me about her? I know she's Chinese American, and I know that she was brilliant. And I know nobody but her ended up in that crosswalk when she got mowed down.
Dr. Ning Lee worked at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, and she was doing anti-gravity work and research there. She then left the university after a significant amount of time there, and she started her own business, and then the government came calling, and they gave her that grant to work on continued anti-gravity research.
So I think the message is, If the government comes a calling, you better start a running. Let's be honest. If the government comes a calling, you better start a running. I say, thanks for the offer, but I don't know shit. I don't know nothing. Stay the fuck away from me.
This is Huntsville. They do that stuff there as well as advanced propulsion research. And then she started working with the government. And at that point, she kind of went dark. And there was a big thing online for a while because people thought she disappeared. She was off the map for quite a bit. And there was a journalist who was trying to find her to talk to her about her research. And he couldn't find her. And he reached out to another anti-gravity researcher, Eugene Polanak, and Eugene said, oh, she's working for the government. She just can't talk to anybody about what she's doing right now. But Eugene also said, I haven't been able to reach her either. And it was several years later when this same journalist finally tracked down Dr. Ningley's son, and the son said she had been hit. She had been in a terrible car accident, which had left her with permanent brain damage. She developed dementia. And then he took care of her for several years until she finally passed away from this. But she was never the same, obviously. She never went back to work.
You know what's interesting, Stephanie, is that Dr. Lee has been compared to Amelia Earhart. She is the Amelia Earhart of physics, the scientist that many people say, quote, discovered anti-gravity. That's the significance of who is Dr. Ning Lee. She was brilliant, but after being mowed down and across.
I gotta say, there's different power sources, there are different magic to use to make anti-gravity, I like to call it anti-gravity. I remember different people like Lazar and other people, there are different ways of energy to be utilized to do it, for like 0 point type energy, stuff like that. So there are different ways of doing that to break physics on itself and be able to break through time, space, and they'll be on light and whatever, so.
And I keep going back, John Nance joining me, former supervisory special agent with the FBI, to the fact that, for instance, in Manhattan, everybody walks out into the street when they think that they're not going to get run over. They don't look at the walk, don't walk signs, okay? In this case in Huntsville, nobody else stepped out in the crosswalk. Nobody stepped out but her. And she got mowed down. Immediate, forever brain damage. She could never work as a physicist again after that.
There are simply too many data points to think that this is, explainable by coincidence. The all these events that are surrounding, especially what we're calling the anti-grav technology, is simply the correlation is simply too strong to ignore. And it kind of reminds me of some of the things that the Bureau used to do back during the Cold War. In fact, agents assigned to counterintelligence functions would often tail KGB agents into the New York subway systems and quote unquote give them a bump, so to speak, as an intimidation tactic, kind of pushing them toward the subway. So what happened to her sounds, hauntingly familiar to that type of thing. Obviously, FBI agents weren't trying to kill KGB agents, but not something that is certainly unheard of within intelligence or counterintelligence communities. So obviously incredibly suspicious.
This is something with me, and I'm getting remote views where I can see outside of my body, I can see it in space. But with these images, I can see structures, I can see stuff on the moon, I can see stuff in space and everything. This is not even what it looks like. This is not even what the moon always looks like either. What you're seeing, a lot of these pictures are airbrushed. It's like what I'm seeing is I'm peeling back stuff. Like I see UFOs. I saw one earlier. And I put on my friend's Twitter. And stuff. But anyways, it's just stuff always comes out. And what some of us see, what you guys see is a lot different. Anyways, I want to say this, okay? Me, I've had to go through, I don't drive, okay? So I either have to use the streets, buses, or use an Uber. But when I do cross the street, there's only been a few times when I do my job of looking enough. And I had to be really sick. And because even a Neanderthal caveman like me is always going to look. Because there are people in a lot of places I've been that would just love to run you over. And then there are some people that want to be run over so they can sue the person and get millions of dollars. So the drivers have to be careful as well. Anyways, you have to be, I've always had to be mindful. Look at the lights and everything like that before you go out. Someone as smart as me, I'm very sure that she's going to make sure the light is green so she can go across the street. It would be so very debilitating to take over the mind where you don't look.
And we keep going back to people who are involved in the UAP sphere, or more commonly known as the US UFO sphere. I think we've had 3 congressional hearings on this so far, and Matthew Sullivan's case is extremely disturbing. You have an individual that was getting ready to come forward and testify before Congress about matters of incredibly sensitive intelligence value. So I think that the FBI has every cause to be highly concerned. And also Representative Burchett and Luna have also been leading the charge on these matters, as well as Burleson. So you have incredibly credible people who are very, very concerned about all these matters. So this isn't something to be taken lightly or to be dismissed as crazy UFO talk. This implicates very, very real technologies and programs that have been attested to, crash retrieval programs that have been attested to under oath before Congress.
Frank Milburn, on the heels of what John Nance just told us, why are you speaking out? Do you have any fears?
I don't know. They say jumping out of planes at low level is dangerous. They say getting shot at and blown up is dangerous. But, I was doing that when I was 17. So, no, I'm not too worried for myself. I have had sort of harassment campaigns orchestrated against me. That's still happening. But, that's like all stuff, kind of like sticks and stones, just trying to make me out to be a bad person, the same thing as happened with Amy, trying to make me out to be incompetent and sort of, lacking integrity, all those sort of things. But, they're just water off a duck's back. I'm speaking out because Amy can't, although she can through the files that I have, and people are going to continue to hear her voice and to see what she wrote and to understand more about her. Actually, in terms of the sort of the anti-gravity and all the other sort of what they call the 5 observables, actually back in 2020, I wrote 2 papers on those for an Israeli think tank, the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. One of them is called the Pentagon's UAP Task Force, and the second one was American Development of UAP Technology, a fait accompli. So those kind of explain the strategic aspects of UAP and how both America and our adversaries want to harness these technologies, not only to compete with each other, but also, as Dr. Eric Davis said, who used to work for the Defense Intelligence Agency as a consultant, to by 2050 to be able to approximate these technologies in case, the Tic Tacs and the operators of the UAP turn out to be hostile. So, as humans, we want to have those technologies as well.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Please.
We'll continue this after a moment. While you take a leak. Hold on. Right, let's see what I have next. Let's see, what do I have? Right. I want to see what he was. Big brush yesterday.
39-year-old Matthew Sullivan. He died of an accidental drug overdose in 2024, just weeks before he was scheduled to be interviewed by lawmakers about UFOs. Sullivan was reportedly a colleague of David Grush. Grush is the former Air Force intelligence officer turned whistleblower, and Grush claims the U.S. government has a top-secret program working to reverse engineer spacecraft of non-human origin. During his first network television interview right here on this show, Grush told me that he felt he was being threatened for blowing the whistle.
I had some unique things happen in my personal life that, were some of the causal factors for me to file a complaint, some things that my wife and I had noticed, some intimidation.
So is it possible that that's what happened to Matthew Sullivan? And what about the other missing scientists who held high security clearances and who all either died or mysteriously disappeared? Our next guests have some unique insight. Joining us is University of Albany physics professor Matthew Zhadagas. He's a physicist focused on dark matter and UFO research. Also joining us is veteran television producer and author Miguel Sancho. His new book, Evidence of the Extraordinary, takes readers inside UFO investigations. Great to have you both with us. Miguel, I'm going to start with you because you just spoke with David Grush about the Matthew Sullivan case. David Grush knew Matthew Sullivan. Does he think anything fishy happened here, that this should be investigated?
Well, it's been good to see you, and thank you so much for having me. I know David Grush professionally. We're not best of friends, but we've stayed in touch ever since he gave that interview to News Nation through Ross Coulthard, as you know. And I reached out to him today and just had a relatively brief chat asking him, if anything, what he knows about Matthew Sullivan. He confirmed that they were close friends. There's been, as you know, some discussion about exactly what the nature and extent of their relationship was. But he said he is being very cautious, as is his nature. He's a very cautious, very discreet, and I would say very honorable man. And he's waiting for the right time to go public with what he knows about the relationship and what he thinks about Mr. Sullivan's untimely death. He did say that in terms of connections to other cases on this list, he doesn't see an immediate connection with all the other dozen or so tragic disappearances and deaths, but he does find the McCaslin case, which is kind of the granddaddy
the
of
General
them all.
McCaslin, yeah. He
Indeed.
is very mysterious.
He considered that very concerning. And as we go through these, I think it's very important to kind of take them in isolation before stretching and embracing some overarching grand unified theory of everything. Many things.
I wonder if Grush said that. I just wonder if Grush said that he did see a connection with all of them, so it takes some of the heat off of him. I don't know. I don't care what other people say. There is a connection with some of these, definitely. I'd say a few of them, could be different. But there are a lot of cases, too, that the news isn't reporting, that Burkett, talked about, where there's a lot more others that have been, killed or offed or whatever, missing. So
things can be true, as you often say. Some of them can be accidental, some of them can be suicides, some of them could be foul play that has nothing to do with UFOs or conspiracies.
Right.
Some of them could have foul play involved with foreign adversaries.
Matthew, what's your take on it all? Shit. I mean, obviously we've got...
It's not foreign adversaries. Our government has done this shit. Our piece of shit, ratty-ass government.
Members of Congress who've been very concerned, who've come on this show and talked about the fact that they want this investigated. The FBI, in fact, and NASA are investigating. President Trump has called for an investigation. Do you think, I mean, some of these...
I wish you idiots would stop saying, the FBI. The FBI is part of the problem. They're part of the cover-up. They're part of the cover-up. Same with JFK and all this other stuff. All these other things. They're part of the cover-up of JFK, like I said. All these other cover-ups. Why you dumbasses stop being so stupid? Let's get the FBI involved. So fuck you. They're not going to do anything. I hate these idiots. I just hate the idiocy of these idiots. I cannot tolerate idiocy. Because I already know stuff. I know longer than they have. This stuff. It just pisses me off. And I cannot stand stupidity. This stuff. You don't trust the FBI in that. Or even local law enforcement, because they can be compromised as well. All I get with this disclosure stuff.
just when you thought the disclosure of
this is CBN News. I had to go to this because this is the Christian Broadcasting Network. I used to be a Christian until those sons of bitches. They did, I swear to God, the stupid church did a lot of shit to me with the UFOs and all this other stuff. Tried to brainwash me. All these people tried to do a lot of shit to me. So,
aliens and UFOs and interdimensional beings couldn't get more bizarre. Well-known Christian pastor Perry Stone just had this to say.
But there were a large number of pastors that had been invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government and others share with them a concern that they had. But he said, Perry, what they're about to release, from what we're hearing, there's going to be a release concerning aliens and concerning unidentified flying object spacecraft, that some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors, you need to prepare your people and you need to get ready to...
It means is you need to create a story like the Catholic Church had to, because they knew that they were fucked when they had, UFO stuff and extraterrestrial stuff, whether it's modified remains of ETs or other proof. They need to create a story to further their bullshit religions. And the thing is, these religions need to be destroyed. They're based on ancient tribalism, okay? They say, our religion is the only way you get to heaven. And they're full of shit. They're lying sacks of shit. You don't need God to go to heaven. You don't need Jesus to go to heaven. And you have to be pretty much all evil to go to this place called hell. And there are other dimensions out there. There isn't just a heaven or hell. That's bullshit. These books put these in, whether it's the Quran, the Torah, or the Bible, whatever the fuck it is. They do this stuff to control you. It's all about controlling the population. It's all they're saying is, it's our way, our book is the way, and you can only be holy if you go by the rules of our books. And that's all bullshit. They're all lies. I had these bitches from the church that were trying to totally, brainwash me. And I hope they have a terrible fucking death. I hope they burn in hell. Or else I didn't want to put them there, probably. When I die or whatever. But this is what, they want to get ready so they can have a story to keep their stupid bullshit religion going. Their piece of shit religion.
Answer them for what you're about to hear being released. And some of it has to do with crafts that have been discovered that are not allegedly a part of our planet, and the materials they're made of are not a part of our planet. Very strange reptilian looking.
Yeah, I told you motherfuckers this decades ago. People like me and you pieces of shit said that they were demons, or demons were in us and stuff like that. I hope you guys burn in hell. I want to see you guys burn just about alive, just about
creatures.
What the shit
okay, our alien expert Billy, what did you make of that?
I love that alien expert. Well,
people, period. That goes for religious people that have this bullshit and are dumb enough to believe in these stupid Bibles, Torah, the Quran, or the Bible, or whatever. Okay? I'm more in line with like Buddhism type stuff. I get stuff like that and everything, but
Here's what I'll tell you. We don't really know what this meeting was. We don't know what happened. I have seen other people say, oh no, it's real. I was there. This meeting happened. You know, the reality is we don't know the confines of the information, what was sort of given. There's a lot happening here. Disclosure, the idea that alien disclosure could happen, or explanations for, you know, these UFOs, that the government is going to do this. We've seen the president talk about this. But the idea that faith leaders would be brought in is very interesting, because this is going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal in culture.
Because they have to redo their stupid bullshit story, their narrative. This stuff, and then they have to include ETs, and then they have to say, oh, God did, you don't know anything about God. The God that exists, as I say, I call a psychopath, that allows bad stuff to happen to people. I'd be a better God to people than the God that is right now. I wouldn't allow this human suffering. I would not allow animal on animal violence. I would not allow all this suffering with disease and cancers. And I can feel other people's pain and suffering that most other people can't. I'm an empath. Now, what Christians and all these other people of faith do, they put themselves in a fucking bubble. They say God is good, all is great, all is great. Put themselves in a fucking bubble. Or they brainwash themselves and others and say God is good, God is great, make themselves believe this, even if their God isn't, and other people are suffering, and they choose not to see. This is the thing with church. I've been in churches, you know, religion and stuff like that. I know how it goes, where you kept it into your freaking, you know, religious sect or whatever. And it's like you don't have, they tell you not to have anything to do with the outside. You know why? Because you're going to see other people's pain and suffering. You're going to see the violence that animals do. Animal killing, eating each other, killing each other. You're going to see reality as it is. And Westerners don't see that as much as third world countries in Africa, South America, and they don't even see outside their own bubble a lot of times, their own city. They cut themselves off from everything, and that's the only way they can keep the faith. And I see people that are stupid and said, I'm glad I found Jesus, I'm glad I found God, I'm so lost. It's like, you don't need that. You don't need God, you don't need Jesus and all this other shit. You don't. You don't.
It's going to be a big deal, essentially in the church, because people have to have an answer to it. We've been talking about this quite a bit here in different segments, and the reality is Christians have to know what they believe and what they think about this, and that requires praying about it, asking the Lord, looking at Scripture, trying to understand what could possibly be going on here. But I have to tell you, the big thing when I look at this,
God is so stupid,
is that fear. Fear is something that is going to grip people. There's also a fascination. People have long wanted to believe in aliens. They've wanted to believe in UFOs. Maybe 10 years ago we would have laughed about it, but right now more than half of the public believes that these things are real.
You guys demonized me. You pieces of shit stains demonized me and others. You pieces of shit. That should be walked on. You trash. Religious folk are the problem. Your religions need to be killed off and destroyed.
Whatever this disclosure tells us, the fact that you had pastors purportedly gathered together, if this is true, to talk with government officials about it is very, very intriguing for a couple of reasons. First, it shows that pastors, still in the eyes of the government,
and this is the reason why Trump did not want to disclose the truth, is because it breaks a lot of, you know, it nullifies the stupid ancient tribalism of tribes saying our way is the only way to get to heaven, to have eternal peace, to have no more suffering. That's bullshit. That's not true. You see, the real God that's out there, there's different gods as well. But yet, there could be one and there's different ones as well, alright? It's that loves all people, it doesn't matter about religion. At the same time, I call God a fucking psychopath. Because I only go by everything that I know and see. Of all the suffering, pain, and misery. How we're nothing more but a circus freak attraction in a simulation. We're nothing but a sick experiment by the gods, and they watch all this shit happen. I'd be a much better god this motherfucker that has done here. I would not allow it. So I'd attack anybody, just about, that starts this stupid religious crap.
Hold an important role in our culture and our society, right? They preside.
I've been through too much in my life, and I can feel other people's pain, the emotions. I see people die. Too many people die of cancer, of disease. These stupid idiots, their religious stuff like that, they don't let it affect them that much. They bubble themselves off. They get away with that, compartmentalize stuff like that. Me, it affects me differently. I say, what God would do that? An evil God would allow this pain and suffering. It has to be evil motherfuckers I want to take out myself.
Over many, many people, sometimes thousands of people. And so if you want to get a message to people, you go to those pastors. But the second thing, and this is really interesting, we have no idea if this is true. We have to assume. Now, are we just going to believe suddenly whatever the government narrative is on? And we don't know what it's going to be. Whatever the government comes out and says about UFOs and aliens is...
Which is probably not much, but just some pictures and maybe some worded stuff that's heavily redacted. It's just going to have people be more pissed off and say there's only this amount of stuff. You're just going to have some pictures of stuff and everything. And the thing is, I don't like to have anything to do with humans anymore. In a lot of ways, I think that doing this is a waste of time. I don't see people watching this or anything. It's like a waste of my time because the reason why I do this is so other people can chat. And that shitty YouTube, because a lot of that's their fault in the way their algorithm is. But I'm so ahead and know so much more than most people do. I'm not afraid to say it. And if it wasn't for how bad my legs are, I'd be out there right now talking with ETs. I'd be out there watching them and stuff like that. I miss them. I don't have humans as friends. I have ETs as friends. My family is dead and gone. ETs are the only thing left.
Are we posturing to say we're going to believe that automatically? Are we going to question that? Are we going to try to understand maybe what is going on? Because we are very much in a time where there have been a lot of distrust and a lot of questions about what the government has said on other issues, right, of late. And so I'm very interested to see how people react to the government coming forward with information, because you have to assume again that the government knows, okay, well, if I trust what the government says, right, and at face value, whatever narrative they put out there, if I just say I'm going to embrace that, I think that's pretty lazy. So I would encourage everybody, regardless of whether or not this story is true, regardless of whether or not pastors were brought together, when that disclosure does happen, that you take it to prayer. And I'll stop there, Raj.
Don't put that shit to prayer. Do not listen to these idiots. They know nothing of what they talk about with prayer or whatever. Investigate yourself, but don't do bullshit prayer thing. prayer ain't gonna give you any answers. You're not gonna get enlightenment through that. Through extraterrestrials, not human intelligence. They will help with that. Not these fake gods that people are worshiping and stuff. You do that, you're going to be a Neanderthal. You're going to be a person not worth people like me giving you any time. You're going to be way below me in intelligence and IQ and everything else. And everything. You're not going to know what the hell you're talking about. I've said enough. I'll be a much kinder God than the ones that you dumbasses, believe in. I have love, and people love each other and care for each other and everything. But, anyways, let's see. I want to get rid of this. Earthquake Area 54.
Well, in the span of 24 hours, there have been 17 earthquakes near Area 51. It started with a 4.4 magnitude quake just 2.5 miles underground. The area is normally not prone to earthquakes this shallow, and it's leading to theories of nuclear testing or even UFOs, because it all happened after President Trump said this.
There's a lot of evidence that I've seen where UFOs are causing earthquakes. Those are the evil ETs. And why aren't we doubting those motherfuckers? Those juvenile delinquents, as I call some of them in a comedic way. Delinquents and stuff like that starting earthquakes. They can. Yes, those crap can start earthquakes. They've been associated with it and stuff, so... Fucking go, you dumbass.
Do you have an update on the UFO files and when we're going to be seeing them?
Well, I think we're going to be releasing as much as we can in the near future. They want to find out about the UFOs and anything having to do with UFO or related material, and we're going to be releasing a lot of things from that we have, and I think some of it's going to be very interesting.
Joining us now to respond, Dr. Stephen Greer, UFO researcher and retired physician. Great to see you, Doctor. So are these earthquakes...
Do not trust everything he says. There's a lot of bullshit they puts out about saying all ETs are good and, it's just government, robots that are doing abductions and stuff like that. And there's good bad ETs. I know some good extraterrestrials. I've had contact with them and stuff. So I know. And I think one big reason why they made contact with me is so that I know that there are some good ones out there. Because I have a fan up above in my room. There's one here. At night, a lot of times I can't sleep, because it looks like a fucking UFO is coming down to abduct me and stuff. So I know of good ETs, I know of evil ones that done the most horrific criminal type of stuff. Let's see. I guess I'll keep going. See, it's just he puts a good amount of BS out there.
Just a version of burning the files at an embassy when people got to get out?
Well, the thing that lights up in my mind is that back in the 1990s, I briefed a man who worked and designed a security apparatus at some of the facilities out there, particularly the ones up near Groom Lake and Pahut Mesa. And he explained that on the top of those complexes underground were like bunker busting type bombs, but underneath them were thermonuclear devices, so that if anybody was getting close to those facilities, And by this, it could even be the legal government of the United States. They could collapse those facilities. No, I don't know that that's what happened, but I know for a fact those security systems are out there. So that's one consideration. Now, it could just be a cluster of earthquakes, or they could be doing some legitimate underground testing in that
there's
region.
some underground stuff.
Yeah, there are a lot of mountains out there, so earthquakes are not out of the question. But we just heard President Trump promising disclosure. What does disclosure actually mean, in your mind?
I think he has.
Well, I founded the disclosure movement at the 25 years ago at the National Press Club event, where we had 20 top secret military and government people disclose their information. We're going to do another one on May 8th, coming up a week from Friday. And what we have found is that the government, meaning the constitutional government, was pretty much left out of the loop on this beginning in the late 1950s. And this is why when I spoke to President Trump's former national security advisor from his first term, they were never briefed on this. And I found this to be true all across government, both here and abroad. And yet the evidence is overwhelming that we're not alone, that there's a lot being kept secret, but the center of gravity of it is not in the government, it's in the corporations. My uncle spent his whole career with Northrop Grumman, so the large aerospace corporations are holding most of these secrets and run most of those facilities.
Why do you think they're holding the secrets?
Listen, I've said that he puts out a lot of bullshit out there, but there's a lot of stuff he's dead right about. You know, I'm not gonna, about people, it's like, if they're right about something, I just say that they're right. If they're wrong, I'm trying to say that too. But this is from my own experience, my own personal experience of what I know from stuff, not from other people. It's just mine and my own. But
is it because they just don't want us to freak out? Like, what's the purpose of keeping it all behind closed doors, whether it's the government or a corporation that's a private company?
Well, I think there are two main reasons. The first is that the technologies of how those operate was figured out in the mid 1950s, what are called electromagnetic systems or anti-gravity. The energy source is from the quantum vacuum or 0 point. We don't have time to go into that. And those being disclosed would eventually replace all oil, gas, coal in the world, and would also give us a completely cleaned environment, but also in poverty globally. And so there's been this debate for decades. So when does this come out? When do we acknowledge these? Because there's no way you can acknowledge they're real, and that there's been a reverse engineering program that's gone on for over 70 or 80 years, and then say there's nothing that's come of that. I mean, the most brilliant scientific minds I've ever met work in covert programs related to this technology.
Mm-hmm. So we've been covering this story on the show and on the network. There has been this disappearance or deaths surrounding 12 or more scientists or people who work closely to government secrets, who had highly classified clearances, just walking into the desert, on a hike, disappearing with no trace. Based on what you've seen in the backgrounds of each of these different people on your screen, do you think that they're related in any way?
Well, they could be. Some of them may most certainly are. I think Mr. Sullivan and Amy Eskridge, who both were, one was going to come forward as a whistleblower and died, and the other one had technology related to what I just referred to, who was not suicidal, who was made to look like a suicide. Now, whether all of them are related to this, I don't know. General McCaskill from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base may have disappeared himself, because I've been working with a team of people with U.S. law enforcement handing off whistleblowers. We have 760 of them now, which have implicated certain people in criminal activities, child trafficking, human trafficking using advanced UAPs.
Right. Have you heard from have you heard from Mr. McCaskill? Or
no, I haven't.
Any of the folks who are missing?
No, none of these people. But we did a film that came out, a documentary a couple years ago called The Lost Century. Mm-hmm. And The Lost Century documents that over the decades, many people have been killed related to this issue, and particularly the technology part of it. Yeah. Because, and frankly, I won't say which company, but there's a large government contractor who has a security officer that has been involved in targeted killings of certain people. Yeah.
Well, we will follow up. We will be watching this for sure. You'll be back in the D.C. area for the 25th anniversary.
She's really bitch to him. Listen, I've attacked that stuff easy, but she's a real bitch, Tim. I know. You should actually have more time to explain that. Like, one of the places, obviously Lockheed Martin, which my dad worked for. There's others as well. So, it's just a bunch of cartels that are doing this stuff.